introduce a very good speaker. She is on her second speech. She gave her first speech last week, and she's rolling right along, and she's already prepared her second speech. Her speech is entitled, "One of My Proudest Moments." Please give a hand to Vivianne on the stage.
Good evening. I always wanted to be a mom. It's a standing joke in my extended family that from the time I was 7 years old, I would run around and say that I was going to grow up to have 5 daughters because I really liked the book Little Women. Well, I'm here to tell you, thank the good Lord, that did not happen to me. However, in 1994, I did give birth to my first son, second child. And I recall one very specific day where I happened to be washing the dishes, and I looked over to my right-hand side where my baby boy, who was just a little over a year old, was surrounded by all of these plush, lovely, developmentally correct toys, and he was not interacting with any of them. And I pondered that for a thought, for a moment, and even to this day, it's very poignant. I remember hearing the wind blowing outside. I remember the smells of the room, and I remember what he was wearing. And in my mind, I said, oh, something is not right. Immediately, I started asking questions. You know, do you see a difference? Do you see something? And I was brought information from the local newspaper that said that the Wenatchee School District was doing a developmental evaluation and that it was free to parents that had any concern. Well, I made an appointment. We went. My son was asked to stack blocks. He looked like he was just playing with this marvelous woman who very clearly stated that he was able to receive services based on this evaluation. So that was wonderful in that a lovely lady came to our home once a week and would spend about a half an hour playing with my child. I observed, tried to see what it was that I could learn out of this interaction. And what I had heard her mention was this word called autism. At this time, it was probably about 1996, around there. I had never heard of the word autism except for when Doug Flutie, I don't know if many of you remember him, he was a football quarterback. He had had his face plastered on the Wheaties cereal box raising money for this thing called autism. So I said, with this knowledge, I'm going to go to the local library and I'm going to find out what this is. So I went to the Wenatchee Library and found a lot of lists of what this child will never be able to do, what this child can't do. There was a doctor in the United States who worked at the Johns Hopkins Hospital. In 1940, he had 11 cases that came into his office. All were boys from very well-to-do, educated families. The description was the child was very isolated, didn't interact, wasn't a lot of eye contact. And the word autism came from this interaction. And what it means, it comes from the Greek word meaning saying, it's auto is the name of the word. And what it means is being alone with oneself. I'm an extremely social person, and the thought of that just haunted me. So I read this list. Probably will never be affectionate. Probably will never learn to speak. Probably will never be able to handle being in large groups of people. Probably will never drive. Probably will never be able to get married, to have a relationship. And I thought, this is so incredibly grim. So I went to my family and sat down and said, you know, let's see what we can do about this. At the time, the statistics stated that it was 1 in 500 children that were diagnosed. Yes, typically boys, and incidentally, very good-looking boys, which my son happens to be. So, we went to work. First thing was to fight with the school district. Fight seems very aggressive, but that's exactly what you do. Sat down, I said I want him to be mainstreamed. And the school district said, well, let's see what that looks like. And we got him mainstreamed. We got him mainstreamed till he was in junior high. And they told me that because he didn't have self-expressive language, he would have to be in a self-contained classroom. Have any of you ever even thought of that word? Would you ever want to be in a room that was called self-contained? So my son went into the self-contained classroom, but at home, went to church every week, went to restaurants, whether he liked it or not, went boating, whether he liked it or not, went flying, traveled very many times, has done very well. And I'm here to tell you he also enjoys dancing, which I encourage profusely. This last summer, in June, my son graduated from high school, walked with his class, and I can honestly tell all of you that it was one of my proudest moments. Whenever you see an individual in this valley that has special needs, remember this mom, remember those that love him, and give them the respect that they deserve. Thank you for your time.